Shalom to you and welcome. In this video, we'll be using the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations. In the last video, in the class last time, we used completing the square to derive the quadratic formula. So now we will use that quadratic formula to solve equations. So we have already completed this part. You know where the quadratic formula came from. So now we are going to sing the song to help us memorize the quadratic formula. Okay, let's play it.
Shalom to you. Here is a song to help you memorize the quadratic formula. If ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, discriminant.
So let's solve an example. So in the song it says if ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So this is the standard form. So we have to write the equation in standard form first before we can apply it. So we know what our a and b and c are. So here is not in standard form yet. We have to move everything on one side of the equation so that one side will be 0. So what we do, since this x squared is here and is positive, so we subtract 6x from both sides. So we keep the x squared on the left side, we subtract 6x from both sides. We're going to get negative 6x on the left now. And then 5 is positive also, so we subtract 5 from both sides, and that would make it negative on the left side. So the right side will become 0. So now it is in standard form. So we know our a is 5, our b is negative 6, which is over there, they match, and our c is negative 5. So now that we have this, we plug into our formula. If ax squared plus b, then x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so x equals negative, the b is negative 6. So you're going to do negative 6 plus or minus square root of negative 6 squared. Make sure you put the negative for the squaring because b, the whole b is negative 6, so negative is also squared. If you don't, you're going to get negative 36. That would be wrong. So times our a is 5. So times 5 times, and our c is negative 5. So negative 5, they're all under the square root all over 2 times our a again is 5. So we have x equals, okay, opposite of negative b, negative will become positive 6, plus or minus the square root of the negative 6 squared, negative times negative is 36, minus, make sure you simplify the parentheses, all multiplications before you subtract here. So 4 times 5 is 20, 20 minus 5, 20 times negative 5, it's negative 100. All over 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, we have x equals 6 plus or minus square root of, this is 36, negative of negative, opposite of negative 100 is positive 100. over 10. Okay, so now we go on, we're gonna add 36 plus 100. That's gonna give us 136. Okay, let's move it up here. So we have x equals 6 plus or minus square root of 136 all over 10. Alright, so going on, now we need to see if there's any perfect square that goes into 136. It seems like 4. So 6 plus or minus. So we're going to have 4 times 34. 4 times 34 would give us 136. So all over 10. So x is 6 plus or minus. Now we're going to separate them. Square root of 4 times square root of 34 all over 10. Going on, 6 plus or minus. Now square root of 4 is 2. And then times, we keep, there's no other perfect square that goes into square root of 36. So we just keep it like that. But now we have 2 times. We have 6 and 2 square root of 34 over 10. So this is like 6 over 10 and then 2 square root of 30 over 10. So the 2 can go into each one of them. So 2 go into 6, you get 3. And 2 go into 2 is 1. So plus or minus 1, that's 1 square root of 34 over 2 go into 5 into 10 is 5. So now we have x equals 3 plus square root of 34 over 5, and x equals 3 minus square root of 34 over 5. So that will be our solution, those two. Alright, okay, let's try another one. So same thing, we need to first of all make it be in standard form. So we need to add 1 to both sides to move it everything on one side. So to keep the left side, add 1, and that will make it 0. The right side is 0. So now we have x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so, and what's our a? Our a here is 5. Our b is 8. And our c is 1. So we plug them in. Equals negative b, which is 8, plus or minus square root of b, which is 8 squared, minus 4 times a is 5, times c, which is 1, all over 2 times 5. Okay, so we have, bring it up here, we have x equals negative 8 plus or minus square root of 8 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64, minus, and 4 times 5 is 20, times 1 is 20, times 1 is 21, all over 2 times 5 is 10. So x equals negative 8 plus or minus square root of, now 64 minus 20, 21. Oops, here, this is 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 1 is 20. I made mistake, added there. So it should still be 20. So 64 minus 20 should be 44 all over 10. So now let's find see if there's a perfect square that goes into 44. 4 times 11. 4 times 11. 4 is the perfect square, so 4 times 11 would give us 44 equals 10. So let's continue on the side. 8 plus 4 times 11. So we have x equals 8 plus or minus square root of 4 times square root of 11 all over 10. So x equals 8. Or did we have 8 or negative 8? Okay, sorry, it's negative 8. Okay, so go back there. It's negative 8 plus or minus. Now square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 11 over 10. So x equals negative 8. And here again, it's like 2 can go into each one of them. So 2 going to 8 is negative 4. And 2 going to 2 is 1. 2 going to 10 is 5. So we're going to actually have x equals negative 4 plus or minus square root of 11. This is 1 square root of 11 all over 5. So we can now separate them. X equals negative 4 plus square root of 11 over 5, and x equals negative 4 minus square root of 11 over 5. Okay, that is that. Let's see if we can do one more. Okay, so same thing here. We make everything be on one side. Now here you see that the x squared is negative, so we want to move it to the right. Add x squared to both sides so that it becomes positive here. And then we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. So it's going to be 0 equals s squared plus s minus 1. So because this s is positive here. So once it's in standard form, so x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so negative. Now our a is 1. Our b is also 1. Our c is negative 1. So our a is 1, our b is 1, our c is negative 1. So this one will be kind of easy without the 1. So negative b is 1, plus or minus square root of b squared, which is 1 squared, minus 4a, which is 1, times negative 1, all over 2 times 1. Okay, so x equals negative 1 plus or minus square root of 1 squared is 1 minus 4 times 1 is 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. All over 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so move it up here. So we have x equals negative 1 plus or minus, oh my gosh, sorry, this is negative 1. Okay, this is negative 1 plus or minus square root of, so we have that's 1 plus 4. So negative 4 becomes plus 4 over 2. So x equals negative 1 plus or minus 1 plus 4 is 5 over 2. So no perfect square goes into 5. So it's in simplest form now. So x equals negative 1 plus square root of 5 over 2. And x equals negative 1 minus square root of 5 over 2. Okay, that is that. Hope you get that.